Please give a big Arizona welcome to the 2013 Visibility Award recipient, Mr. L.Z. Granderson.
I am so glad I'm not in drag right now because my mascara will be running all over the place. I did not know I was going to get that emotional sitting backstage, listening to Neil, watching the video, because truth be told, I just didn't think that any of this was in the cards. You know, I was just a poor, skinny kid in Detroit, really just trying to, live day to day and to be at this place in my life where all of you fine people thought that it was worthy to acknowledge the work that I've been doing over the years. Is truly humbling, and I thank you. And yeah, boy, as I said, good thing I'm not in drag. I want to thank HRC Arizona for bringing my partner and I out here. It's very cold in Michigan. And even though I understand that it's cold for you people right now, for my partner Steve and I, we're basically in flip-flops and celebrating. So thank you very much. Neil mentioned, and by the way, Neil is a wonderful, wonderful friend and a source of inspiration for me, and I was so happy he was chosen to introduce me because he truly knows me in this journey that I've been on over these years. And he mentioned over a short period of time, it seems as if my career has ascended, and it has. I think I've become a better journalist. I think I've been more courageous in my words. I think I've fought harder. I think I write better. And I can't help but correlate that ascension in my career with meeting my partner, Steve. When you find your match, when you fall in love, you just feel like you want to share it with the world. And my work over these past few years has been just that, inspired by your love, to share our love with the world and to fight for every other couple that's out there, not just in the US, but all over this world, that found their match, and all they want is just to be happy and not to be ostracized or discriminated against. And so those pieces that you saw in the video all really have come recently, and they only come through the prism of the marriage that I have with my partner, Steve, and I'm very grateful for you, and thank you so much, honey, for loving me, for knowing me, and loving me anyway. So this award is, the Visibility Award, if you will, and I'm not going to stand here and not acknowledge my frailties in this conversation. Though I have won this lovely award that will be sent to you on my mantle, the fact of the matter is that I'm not always the courageous lion that you see on television. Sometimes I too am still fearful, even at this point in my life, even after being out for as long as I have been. And so I would like to share with you three, very brief, because we all want to hear Tiffany. Sidebar, so my 16-year-old son and my mom lives with us at home. When they're gone, true story, I look around, I tip over to Steve and I go, I think we're alone now. Of course, we're not alone for long. My mother or son soon barges in and ruins the moment, but nonetheless, just the thought is there is nice. So anyway, Tiffany waits to hear you. So the visibility aspect. I want to take you back to, I'd say like 1988 when I was in high school. And there was this guy there who in retrospect I realized was openly gay. And he was handsome. He's a really, really good looking guy. He's about, 6 feet tall or whatever. Confident, full of life, bubbly, wonderful. And I was attracted to him. But I was closeted. I was afraid. And so I can't tell you if I actually was a bully, but certainly when he was bullied, I did nothing in his defense. His name was Terrence. His name is Terrence. And if Terrence comes across this video, or if you happen to be out there, I just want to say that I'm sorry. I do not want to go forward with the rest of this acceptance speech about visibility without acknowledging that you needed a partner to be visible for you all those years ago. I should have, I didn't, and I am sorry. The second brief story is my journey of coming out. At this point, I was married. I had already served in not one, but 2 churches as a youth pastor and was in graduate school with my then wife, who also was in graduate school. And I was coming to the point in which I realized that I couldn't pray the gay away. I've already been through an Exodus program, and that this was who I am, and I needed to accept that. But I was still having a hard time with the vocabulary. I was having a hard time of looking myself in the mirror and acknowledging that I was a gay man. But I would go to this coffee shop in our town in Grand Rapids, Michigan, called Sons and Daughters. And there was this man there by the name of Jeff Swanson. The importance of visibility is not just about the people who are on television. The importance of visibility is not just those who happen to be on magazine covers or have, a talk show or a radio show or sing songs. Visibility's importance is each and every one of us who are in that space to be out and proud, because you just never know who's depending on you to be out and proud. And I am here today because that man in Grand Rapids, Michigan was out and proud. So when I was struggling with my sexual orientation and coming out, I would visit this coffee shop, Sons and Daughters, and I would go and I would sit in the corner and I would drink coffee and I would keep my head down and I would read my books and then I would leave. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I was so afraid. And Jeff was about 6'5", 6'6", 300 plus pounds, as I like to call him, a giant wall of gay. And one day Jeff came up to me and said, "What are you doing? Why are you here?" And I said, "I like the coffee." And he was like, "Bullshit." And that began our friendship. And through that friendship, I got the courage to come out. It was painful. It was awful. One of the worst days of my life was seeing my wife drive off with my little boy, because we had decided that we both could not be in the apartment when I finally moved out. So she went to go visit her folks, and I moved out by myself crying every step of the way. But Jeff was there. He wasn't famous. He wasn't in magazines or a politician. He was just an openly gay man in my small community. And that man was my rock. And if it was not for that level of courage, I would not be here today. So I encourage you all. I'm very, very honored by this award, but trust me, my level of visibility is small in comparison to the level of visibility you have in your communities each and every day, because you just never know who's looking at you or who may need you. And lastly, I would like to share a story of when I was at work. Openly gay, confident. I think I had already won a GLAAD award, as a matter of fact, so I was validated gay. And I was doing this story on the LA Lakers. This was a few years ago. And I was sitting around. I had this web show on ESPN.com called LZ's Cafe. And the whole premise was me sitting around with an athlete, having lunch or dinner, and we're just shooting the breeze. So I'm there with the Lakers. It was Andrew Bynum, who was still with the team, Ronny Turiaf, who's a Frenchman who was with the team, Sasha Vujicic, and I think that was it. I think it was just those 3. Anyway, we're just talking back and forth, and I'm like, you know what? You guys are all young men in your 20s in LA. You're rich, you're famous. Like, which celebrities do you have a crush on? So they're going around and talking about the crushes that they have, and we're all laughing and joking. I remember Andrew Bynum specifically mentioned Rihanna, and I was like, "Oh, you like Rihanna, blah, 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 blah." And then Ronny Turiaf looked at me and said, "Well, who's your Hollywood crush?" I know, right? So the cameras are all around, and there must have been at least 3 cameras in the room. We're all taping this thing, the video's going, and oh, by the way, it was spring break, and I had taken my son with me, who was in the room next to a cameraman at the time. Now, I've been openly gay as far as he can remember, his entire life, basically. And he's only heard me say, there's nothing wrong with your father, there's nothing wrong with your family, there's nothing wrong with being gay. If you see anyone being bullied, I expect you to stand up. He's been hearing this over and over and over again. So here we are in LA, in the practice facility, and essentially, I have to come out. And I'm scared. I have a GLAAD award. I'm openly gay for years. Confident. The show is named after me, for heaven's sakes. It's LZ's Cafe. And I am scared. I'm scared because I don't know what's going to happen if I tell them the truth. Still, how many of you know that once you come out once, it's not a done deal? You got to do it over and over and over and over and over again. And sometimes you feel like picking up that fight, and sometimes you just go, you know what, I'm just going to leave it alone. And in that moment, as I'm deciding whether or not I'm going to tell the truth, I glance over, and who do I see? My son. So at first I tried to deflect it. I go, oh man, you don't want to know who I have a crush on. Yes, I do. No, really, you really don't want to know, it's not big of a deal. No, man, I want to know, who's your Hollywood crush? And again, I looked at my son, and I knew if I didn't come out, he would think everything I told him was a lie. And so, I looked Roni right in the eye, and I said, Hugh Jackman. In fact, the game was actually to list 3 people you were into, so choice number 2 for me was Hugh Jackman. I kind of have a thing for Wolverine, which is why Steve won't let me watch X-Men without giving me grief. And then I think number 3 was Beyonce or something, because, come on, she can turn anybody. So I gave that, and the best part of this story is the fact that the guys didn't go, they didn't get up and walk out. Roni actually looked at me and said, okay. And that was it. There was a brief moment, I will admit this, there was a brief moment with Andrew Bynum, who I think was 19 at the time. You can see on his face, he's like going, but that's a dude. And then he kind of, he eventually figured it out and was like, oh. But even he was cool afterwards once he processed what was going on. It doesn't really matter how many laws are passed, how many marriages are legalized, whether we pass the Employee Non-Discrimination Act or not. We're still going to have to deal with those elements of homophobia. Sometimes it'll be internalized homophobia. Sometimes it'll be actualized homophobia out in the world. Mississippi just ratified the 13th Amendment last month. Just to give you a snippet. So I'm happy where we are, but I want to encourage you and to let you know that once the fight is over, the fight still won't be over. We'll still have to keep teaching, we'll still have to keep loving, we'll still have to keep forgiving, and we'll still have to be patient with our brothers and sisters who are not quite up to speed. And when I get frustrated, which I do from time to time, I turn to this poem that actually really set me on my path into being a writer. And so I would like to close with a slightly modified version of that poem. It's by Maya Angelou, perhaps you heard it, Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my hauntiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. We are the dream and the hope of Bayard Rustin, Lorraine Hansberry, Harvey Milk, Vito Russo, Barbara Jordan, and so many more. And so we rise. We rise. We rise. Thank you.